I'm very, very concerned that this deep state is entrenched and they will cut anybody's throat. And if they're not stopped under Trump, they're not going to be stopped. And I've been watching the testimony, of Rod Rosenstein, who just threw everybody under the bus, said, I didn't know anything. Well, what are you doing then? Were you in the bathroom the whole time? What were you doing? So I want to get an update from you on this, but I want to know if Trump is actively, and the Justice Department is actively engaged, and we're going to see some arrests here before the election.
Well, I have to tell you, I believe, not only believe, I know what the president is saying is true. He's left it to Bill Barr. He has complete confidence in Barr. I have confidence in Barr, and I do believe there are going to be arrests. And I believe there are going to be arrests because, having done that for 17 years, I can see 5 or 6 cases where the evidence is public, and you could secure a very, very good indictment. So I would be shocked if we didn't have at least 7 or 8 indictments before the election.
Anybody who is actually consequential?
Let's take one person. Comey. Comey committed perjury on his Pfizer application. We have prosecuted people like Martha Stewart and Flynn for something much less, giving a non-sworn statement to the FBI, which was at best ambiguous. He gave a sworn statement that was clear as hell that the Steele affidavit was verified, and then told people at or about the very same time that it wasn't. So he's a witness against himself. Plus, there's 100 other pieces of evidence that he knew it was unverified. Now, there are plenty of other things to prosecute Comey for, but that's a prosecution that they have brought vindictively. This would be a legitimate one. I can't see how Barr passes that up. Same thing with McCabe.
Who do you think? McCabe?
The Strzok and Page lovers have to get indicted. I always thought Page would testify against him. And, that guy announces his plan to prevent the president from being president, and then if the president should win, to take him out. And then he volunteers for the investigation to take him out. Plus, he could go back over the entire Hillary investigation and show that he fixed the investigation. He immunized every witness against Hillary. He indicted every witness against Trump. So obviously he's fixing one, and he's trying to create the other. So I think those people are, any fair prosecutor's office, they'd be sitting ducks. The interesting thing is, and I don't know how much evidence they have to go beyond Comey, like to Brennan, like to Clapper. Clapper does have another false statement that's pretty clear. My true belief is the architect here was Brennan, but he might have kept himself covered. So what you would need is you'd have to have one of these people flip and tell you that Brennan was really involved in this. But that whole plot with Papadopoulos and Steele, that was definitely a plot that was dreamed up in the mind of some kind of CIA person.
What about the guy in Italy that told Papadopoulos about the Clinton emails, Joseph Mifsud?
Yeah, that comes out of a stupid James Bond movie, right? They find a guy who's like a for-hire spy. They claim he worked for Russia, which he apparently didn't. He worked for Italy, worked for Malta, worked for a couple other European governments, and he may have worked for us. That setup is so clear. If you did any intelligence work at all, you could figure that in a minute. But I think the only person who could have done that is the CIA director. He got Italy to cooperate with the UK, to cooperate with Australia, to cooperate with Ukraine. Now that, and at the intelligence level. So that Strzok and Comey can't do on their own because of the FBI's inability to do foreign intelligence. That had to come out of CIA. So I don't know. I know, but I have no inside information. But I do know that they're pursuing that very, very heavily. But I don't know.
I hope so.
Gold yet.
They have. I mean, the way the intelligence community was used, and the NSA basically of England coming over and having a meeting with Brennan is just that just stinks to high heaven. And how they were using foreign intelligence to do what they couldn't do here in the United States is sickening.
And it's also sickening that the phony liberal press doesn't have like a connection over that. This is exactly what they accused Nixon of. And this is Nixon on steroids. I mean, the stuff that Nixon did was mostly talk about it, not do it.
Right.
He actually did.
Right.
I mean, it's Nixon.
Back in the 70s, we had the Church Commission, and they at least tried, kind of, and cleaned it up a little bit, maybe for a while, maybe just shoved it deeper into the closet. Do you see any? I mean, where's the outrage from the people in Congress? Where is the outrage from really anybody, Rudy, on this?
Well, the Democrats are covering it up without any doubt, because actually the whole cover-up of Ukraine and the whole way in which the press will just attack anybody that goes near Ukraine is they're afraid that if you really started an investigation in Ukraine, it would take you to Obama. And it would take you to Obama way back in 2012, and it would take down it would probably, if you did a full Ukraine investigation, it would establish Obama in history as being the most crooked administration, at least in terms of the number of dollars they stole. It would make Teapot Dome look like, a sort of lower middle class scandal in terms of money.
Yeah.
I also think they're very, very worried that there are so many other games they played with the intelligence services that they're very afraid that's all going to come out. But the worst part is our Republican senators don't react with outrage. I mean, I can't believe it. Maybe Senator Johnson is an exception. Rand Paul is an exception. To some extent, Lindsey, although Lindsey goes a little back and forth. And Grassley. The rest of them seem to be totally unconcerned.